This is a really unique room we visited in Ostia Antica, just outside of Rome. As you can see, when it was excavated in the 1930s, the room still had its original marble panels, which were usually taken over the centuries to be reused for other things. And it still had a statue of Cupid and Psyche. This one's a copy, but the original is on site at the museum. On the floor, under the statue, you see that radiant pattern. Keep that in mind because it becomes important later. Because of the statue, the building was named the House of Cupid and Psyche. Yeah, I know, not very creative. The house is pretty typical of an aristocratic domus in Ostia Antica, even if the second floor is missing. You enter, and there's seating for folks waiting to talk to the owner. Basically a Roman-style waiting room. And like you should have with any waiting room, down that hallway on the right is a private latrine. It's pretty easy to identify by the channel in the floor, and then there would have been the throne there in the far right-hand corner. I have my theory on what that channel on the floor is for, but that would be a totally different video. I'll put a link in the upper right to my video on other Roman toilet practices. Anyway, you come back to the left, and we have what was a very elegant garden with columns supporting arches, and then against that far wall would have been a fountain, which would have probably been very impressive in the day. If you have a chance to go to Rome and see the houses of the Celio, there's a similar sort of garden fountain. Here it is. The House of the Celios, though, are underground, and there were some walls built to hold up the church above, so the visual is pretty different. It's much clearer in the House of Cupid and Psyche. But clearly, this sort of fountain garden was a very common feature in some of the rich Roman houses of this period. Most of this would have been covered in marble like that first room. You swing around, and there are 3 rooms. The first has a relatively well-preserved mosaic floor in the black and white Ostia Antica style. The second is the room of Cupid and Psyche, which we've already seen. And the third is in pretty sad shape, unless maybe you're a billy goat. Then, up these steps is the last preserved room. On the left would have been some stairs leading to the second floor. But look at that cool marble floor. It's called Opus sectile. You can see there are 4 radiant patterns on the floor, and as I pointed out before in the room of Cupid and Psyche, there probably were statue bases on each of those, so it would have been a really impressive room. I'll need to remind my wife about this room when we redo our house. If you know her, please don't mention it, because I have her focusing her artistic skill on repainting my office in a Pompeian style. Anyway, this is just one of several well-preserved buildings in Ostia Antica, and there are also tons of mosaic floors you can see. So if you're in Rome, want to step away from the crowds and get a feel for how the Romans actually lived, Ostia Antica is a great place to visit. It's not as good as Pompeii or Herculaneum, but it's a lot more convenient. We spent 4 hours, and we still left a lot of things for our next visit. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, share, you know the drill, and I'll make a few more.